The good news is that a pro-Palestine student organizer from Columbia University has been released from immigration detention. Hi everyone, I'm Allie 202 and I'm starting a new news series where we talk about a piece of good news, bad news, and what we can do about it so that you stay informed without short-circuiting your nervous system and you retain your faith in humanity and feeling that you can do something to stop our descent into fascism. Today's three stories are the release of Mohsen Mahdawi, a commercial airline contracting to aid deportation flights, and a petition you can sign and protest you can attend to pressure that airline to end its contract with the Department of Homeland Security. Let's hop right into today's good news. This is Mohsen Mahdawi, okay? He's a Columbia student and he's also a US green card holder. This is him pictured in November of last year at a pro-Palestine protest at Columbia University. He was one of the organizers of those protests. A couple weeks ago, Mr. Mahdawi showed up at an immigration services center in Vermont, expecting to take the test that would allow him to become a naturalized US citizen. Instead, when he arrived at his appointment, he was detained by immigration officials, and his case has caught a lot of media attention because of how skeevy this was. Mohsen had literally been in hiding until that week. He'd been hiding for fear that the administration would seek to deport him after he led pro-Palestinian demonstrations at the school, because other organizers like Mahmoud Khalil had recently been picked up by ICE as well. But he decided to go to his naturalization appointment even though he feared it was a trap. He even alerted Vermont senators and representatives in case things went wrong, and before the appointment he studied the Constitution, preparing for his naturalization test. Obviously it didn't end well. As I mentioned, Mohsen's case, as well as other cases like Mahmoud Khalil's, have been getting a lot of media attention. Just yesterday, Representative Becca Balint, who I really recommend following on Instagram if you don't already, hosted a rally with Bernie Sanders to advocate for his release. And today we got just that. He's been released from detention, and we actually have footage of him walking out of the courtroom to a humongous crowd of supporters waiting there to see what the results would be. And here's a short clip of what he had to say to the folks that were there to support him.
And the message is, we the people will hold the Constitution accountable for the principles and values that we believe in.
That's right. Just to be clear, Mr. Mahdawi is still at risk of deportation, but his release from detention will give him a much stronger chance to challenge the government's allegations because it's way easier to work on a court case when you are not locked up. This is a wonderful first step for this case, and a Columbia student interviewed by The Post says she remains hopeful that we'll see a similar outcome for her classmate Mahmoud Khalil. So that's today's good news. I hope it gives you a little faith that we still have power here. Today's bad news story is going to be about a small airline called Avelo that recently contracted with the government to operate ICE deportation flights. As such, they are facing tons of backlash. Avelo Airlines recently signed a contract with the Trump administration for the use of its planes, flight attendants, and everything else for deportation flights. For context, it's a small airline and its hub is in New Haven, Connecticut, okay? The airline recently expanded to a second airport in Connecticut after getting a sweet tax deal from the state government, but now Texas Attorney General William Tong has written to Avelo and told the company that the state of Connecticut has an obligation to consider the viability of their choice to support Avelo. Basically, they're saying, hey, we just gave you some money, we might need to rethink that. When he wrote to Avelo, he specifically asked, can you confirm that you will never operate flights while non-violent passengers are in shackles, handcuffs, waist chains, and/or leg irons and unable to safely evacuate in the event of an emergency on the plane? Because obviously if you're physically restrained and there's any sort of plane emergency, you're in extra danger. This article says Avelo responded by not answering any of those questions. Instead, it told Connecticut's Attorney General that it has a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation and advised him that if he wants a copy of its contract with the Trump administration, he's welcome to file a Freedom of Information Act request from the government. Well, the public has not been very happy about this. Protests against Avelo Airlines have begun at the New Haven airport, and they're also expanding across the country. All of the deportation flights would be operating out of Arizona as per the contract, and like I said, Avelo is a fairly small airline, but it also operates out of 10 Florida airports and a few other airports around the country, which are now gaining a lot of attention for their frequent protests. Which brings us to the what can you do section of this video. Right now, the easiest thing for everyone to do is to sign this change.org petition called We Won't Fly Avelo Until They Stop ICE Flights. So far, over 36,000 people have signed. This has gained popularity very quickly. The written section of the petition includes a pledge to boycott the airline until they stop plans to profit off of ICE flights that are tearing families and communities apart. I have dropped the link to this petition in the description of this video. You can go ahead and sign it, and I also recommend to Google whether there are any local airports near you that Avelo operates out of that might be holding protests. If you live in Florida, these are 10 airports that you may want to show up to a relevant event for. But in the meantime, share this petition on social media. Since Avelo is relatively small, they have the capacity to be significantly affected by large public outcry. I will keep you posted though on this channel as this unfolds. Hopefully, one of our good news stories in the near future will be how Avelo decided to cancel their contract after public backlash. We'll see how this shakes out. A reminder to turn your post notifications on if you're subscribed to me, because typically I post YouTube shorts and those just automatically come up in your feed, but as I continue to post these long form videos of the good news, the bad news, and what you can do about it, you'll want the app to notify you when they're coming out. Thank you so much for your support as always. always, feel free to comment if you have a good news story, a bad news story, or an action item that you'd like me to include in one of these videos, and I will consider its inclusion. In the meantime, I hope this series helps you feel healthily involved in a way that retains your faith in humanity and your feeling of agency in preventing the Trump administration from just ripping to shreds everything that it desires. Thanks for watching. Take a deep breath, give yourself a hug. We got this. Go sign that petition, and I will see you in the next episode.